Yeah, we weren't planning on another pod. Rube and I were both not planning on another pod. Here we are, Rube.
Yeah, somehow it doesn't surprise me. Whenever the bye week often aligns with the trade deadline, and it's kind of often the same time of year. So I guess it's not a shock. But every time, every time we get away, there seems to be something happening.
It certainly does. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast, by the way, brought to you by Nissan, Reuben Frank, and Dave Zangaro. Howie Roseman makes a trade on Wednesday. Here are the details of the trade. The Eagles get cornerback Michael Carter and a 2027 seventh round pick. The Jets get John Mechie and a 2027 sixth round pick. So a pick swap a year from now and a rare player for player trade.
Yeah, we've seen a few of these. Um, Corey Bennett was a player for player. It happens once in a while, but yeah, we'll give you our problem if you give us your problem. And he had fallen out of favor with the Jets. Played a lot, for a few years. I mean, he's been there. He's been their number one slot. The slot outside numbers are unbelievable with him. Um, in his career with the Jets, he played 2,212 nickel snaps and 46 outside snaps. So, and that's courtesy of Pro Football Focus, that provides detailed position numbers. So he's a pure slot. He's a pure inside guy. And it's funny because yesterday, I guess it was yesterday, Tuesday, we were talking to Vic about playing Cooper DeJean outside, and he said, "Well, who are we going to put in the slot, basically?" And 24, I guess about 30 hours later, we might have the answer. Now, I don't know if it's a slam dunk. They're going to all of a sudden move Cooper outside, but I think it's in play. He even said, we've talked, the defensive coaches have talked about having Cooper be a full-time outside corner. He can do it. It's just he's one of the best slots in the league, and you don't want to weaken that position. So we'll see how it goes here, but I think there's a pretty good chance that Carter's your new slot.
It at least gives you that option. And they didn't really have that option before. They didn't really have a backup nickel. Their backup nickel was Perry Nickerson, who they released just this week and signed back to the practice squad. So they didn't really have that backup nickel. I think they were hoping Mac McWilliams would be able to do that, but his more natural position is outside. And I think that's where he's gotten the bulk of his work. So this at least gives them that option.
He said it's been about 50-50 when I talked to him last week. He said he's still getting a good number of snaps inside as well. But yeah, I think he's kind of an outside corner.
Yeah, I mean, he's learning the nickel position. He has the size that you would think. He's sub 6 foot, so you would think he'd be better inside, but he has to learn how to play it. I wouldn't. I don't think it's a slam dunk that Cooper DeJean just moves outside full time. I think that this gives them that route down the line, but Carter's also going to have to learn this defense, and I don't think that's going to happen overnight. I don't think it's going to be like week 10 in Green Bay, Cooper's just outside and you have Michael Carter inside. I don't think it's going to be that quick. I think he'll get some snaps early on in the dime package, and then they'll ramp him up. But yeah, it really comes down to, is it better to have Carter as the nickel, or is it better to have Keely Ringo outside? And part of the equation is Cooper DeJean is really, really good inside, and we think he's going to be good outside, but is he as important to the defense outside as he is inside?
Yeah, and that's the equation, and you can't answer that until they get him in the building and start working with him on the defense and just see what he looks like in practice. He's a guy that fell out of favor with the Jets and lost his snaps. So look, with these this isn't a trade deadline move per se, but it's the deadline's in 6 days, so it's kind of similar. And that's the big thing with these moves. It's hard to just all of a sudden uproot yourself from one team and one set of coaches and one scheme, and all of a sudden just go to another city and just start playing. And we've seen it with. I mean, I think it's kind of the exception that these moves work out more than the rule, and they just don't. It's just a really hard thing to do, and part of the process is kind of trying to understand how a new player is gonna fit in. Like, Sam Howell hasn't played, but by all accounts, like, he picked up the offense really, really fast. They were comfortable with him as the 2 while Tanner McKee was still out. But I think it's really hard to do it. And I don't know if Michael Carter can do it. And I totally agree. I think it's not like we're going to have a wholesale change a week from Sunday or a week from Monday just because Michael Carter's here. But I think it does give Vic Fangio an option that he's really been looking for. He's really been looking for a slot. And, like, if nothing else, you have a backup slot. Like, you have that, like, if Cooper got hurt or something, God forbid. But when he said Tuesday, the coaches, we've talked about moving Cooper outside, but, we don't really, not in so many words, but he said, we don't really have a slot. We don't have anybody who can put in there. So it's been on their minds. It's something they've thought about. It's something they've talked about. We'll see where it goes from here. And then Keeley played better. It was against a team that doesn't really have weapons on Sunday, but we know Vic really likes Keeley, and he's going to keep giving him chances. So there's a lot at play here, but it gives you flexibility. John Mechie wasn't doing anything for you, so it's a move that could pay off. If it doesn't, no harm done.
Yeah, the Mechie part of it's important to remember. It's not like they gave up a ton to get Carter, and if he does just serve as the backup nickel, that's more valuable than what you were getting from Mechie. No fault of his own. He's buried on the depth chart as a receiver and as a returner now. So, and you assume AJ Brown is going to be healthy coming back from the bye week. There just aren't that many spots for a receiver, especially now with Xavier Gipson being active,
and also with Darius Cooper being healthy. Throw that in the mix too.
Yeah, sure. So you have all those receivers, and I would think Mechie would have been the odd man out either way. So you're able to unload him to a team where, look, not a lot of players are going to be super thrilled to go to the Jets, but if you're a receiver and you get to play a little bit, I think he'd be on board with that. And I'd imagine Carter's pretty excited to get here. Just who is Michael Carter? 26 years old, 5'10", 184, 2021 fifth-round pick out of Duke, drafted, of course, by Joe Douglas, who was the Jets GM at that point. He's now back with the Eagles as a quasi-offensive line coach / assistant to the GM / personnel guy. Whatever he's doing, I think that connection certainly matters.
He was taking snaps from Brett Toth pregame during warmups right in front of our TV location. Like, this guy's had an interesting career. Go from a GM to taking snaps from Brett Toth. But yeah, Joe knows him, and there's a number of former Jets on this team. It's kind of like back when Kotite was a coach. Somebody wrote this team has more old Jets than LaGuardia or something like that. But yeah, and he's played a ton of snaps, like over 2,000 snaps, almost every one in the slot. So he's a guy with experience. He's only 26, like you said, so he's a relatively young guy. He's got 2 interceptions in his career. Look, he hasn't been a great player. He's been a functional player for much of his career. Not a lot of guys from Duke, not in this league, maybe the other league, but I'm sure Abdul Nabi is thrilled with the move. But yeah, we'll see. And you make a move like this. The bye week lines up with it, so you get him in the building for the next week before they start practicing again, which wouldn't be till next Thursday because of the Monday night game. So you get him in the building. He's got a good 8 days to get a head start on learning everything and sitting down with Christian Parker and kind of figuring things out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes with him. I think it's important to note that the Eagles in this trade did not give up a draft pick for next season or for the next draft. So, that's kind of the pool that we've been operating with the understanding of. They have 7 picks right now. I use the word in hand or the phrase in hand. They have 7 picks in hand, 3 expected to come as compensatory picks. So they still have the ammo if they want to go out and make another trade. So this is not a move that precludes them from keeping those phone lines busy.
Yeah, and we still got a week before the trade deadline. I would not be surprised if there's another move. It's interesting that Jacorian Bennett is coming off IR. He's another guy that Howie traded for back in August. So I don't know what this means for him. He's an outside guy, but that's 2 corners that he's traded for, which is pretty interesting. Obviously, that's a position that you signed a guy during the offseason. You now traded for two guys. Just trying to figure out the cornerback position has been a challenge. Um, and I asked Vic about this on Tuesday. Like Keely has so much potential because of his size and his speed. How do you get him to be more consistent? And Vic just kind of like shook his head, and he said something or other about, he's just got to figure it out and figure out how to be a more consistent player. But I think he's a guy that coaches they don't want to give up on him just because he's got these tools. As Howie would say, he's got tools in his body. Howie probably says that too much, but
I don't care for that phrase.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, but I was saying he's got tools, and it just kind of reminded me of a Howieism. We don't talk to Howie too much this time of year. Maybe we'll talk to him Tuesday if there's a major trade. But it's an interesting one, and I think the initial thought is you got a cornerback. It's going to be a guy who could compete for playing time outside, but they went the other direction, and I still think it's possible they'll add an outside corner. I still think it's possible to add an edge, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can tell you, from what I've heard, the Eagles have been like really pleasantly surprised with how well Cooper Jean has looked when he's gotten those snaps outside. And I don't think at this point they have any question as to whether or not he can play out there.
Yeah.
I think the question is, where are you getting the most value, and what's the best combination? Because like, if he's outside, he's going to cover probably the second best outside receiver. He's probably going to do a good job, but he just has such an impact in the middle of the defense when he plays the nickel or safety for that matter. Like that's where I think on a down-to-down basis, he can make the biggest impact. Now, if things get bad enough with Keely, Adoree, and Jacorian Bennett that you're at a point where you just go, man, we can't do it anymore. We have to. Our best bet is just to play him outside and play Carter inside. At least they have the option now.
When do you think is the earliest? Like, I think that Lions game Green Bay's probably too soon, but that Lions game is one that he's got a few weeks. I think that's a time when it might be realistic to think if something's going to change. I think that's the earliest it could happen.
Yeah, and I wonder if it. Yeah, I just think it might be like a package at a time. I don't think it's going to be the full menu. I think that it would be little by little.
Yeah, I think that's true. And really, it's going to come down to how quickly he picks things up. And I have no way of knowing that. I've never met the kid. Vic Fangio's probably never met him. So, they'll get him started and see how his acuity is for this system and this defense, and go from there. But this is a typical Howie move in that he just didn't give up anything, and you get maybe something. So it's a no risk move. It's a win-win. At worst, you lost a player that wasn't going to factor into your season anyway.
Do you remember the last Duke cornerback the Eagles had?
It was a slot also, right?
I think he played inside and outside. He was, I think, sub 6 foot.
Yeah, I don't.
Josh Blackwell. Remember him?
I don't remember Josh Blackwell.
He's still in the league. He plays with the Bears now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Josh Blackwell. Okay.
He was it was that they brought like 3 undrafted cornerbacks in. I think it was 22. They brought 3 of those guys in. It was him. That. It was the kid from Clemson, and Job.
Josh Job.
Mario Goodrich. I think it was Mario Goodrich, Josh Job, and Josh Blackwell.
Yeah. Josh Job's still in the league and playing well.
Yeah. The other fun thing about Michael Carter is that there's another Michael Carter in the NFL. So now the Eagles have the other Michael Carter and the other Byron Young.
And there was an initial Michael Carter who was a really, really good defensive tackle from the 49ers. He played 9 years, won 3 Super Bowls, 3-time All-Pro. And he was in training camp with the Eagles in '93. And he retired like a month into training camp. but had a great career. And the interesting thing about that Michael Carter is he in 1979 in Sacramento at the Golden West Championships, he set the national high school shot put record, and it still stands 46 years later. And he went on to be like an All-America at SMU, I think. He played at SMU. And when he was with the Eagles, I went up to him and I asked him about the shot put record, and was he surprised it still stood? And he just did not care to talk about it. He was like the surliest dude. And I learned later he didn't talk about anything. He just didn't talk, period. But anyway, 3 Michael Carters. The Eagles have had 2 of them. And yeah, are there any other players that the Eagles have had with the same name? Something we can work on for the next pod.
Yeah, let's work on that. Let's call this pod where it is. This is an emergency Eagle Eye pod. So we had the one on Tuesday. We got another one coming for you on Thursday, a mailbag, or mostly a mailbag for that one. Reuben, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. We lost Pierre Robert today, Tuesday, just a legend in Philadelphia radio and music. Just a wonderful guy, great guy. He had been on MMR since I was a kid, and just a real fixture. Anybody that met Pierre loved him. He was the nicest guy, generous, really supported the music community in Philly, and really, really heartbreaking, really sad loss for Philadelphia, the music scene, the radio community, and just the city in general. So just send out condolences to Pierre's family and his friends.
All right, for Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.